Okay, we're just going to get started, and then whoever joins later. I'm also recording this, so this will be posted on our LinkedIn afterwards as well. So in case anyone missed the beginning, they can have a look then. Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to today's panel discussion, Sustainability in Pharma, Lessons, Challenges, and ESG Compliance, hosted by Brightest in collaboration with Teradu. So a quick note on today's agenda. So we'll do a quick intro, then we'll kick off the panel discussion, and then we'll dive into the Q&A session. While the panel discussion is going on, feel free to already drop your questions in the chats so we can go over that in the Q&A afterwards. And to quickly introduce myself, I'm from Brightest. I'm really excited to moderate this session today. And also thank you all for joining us. I know many of you are working on advancing sustainability across time. If everyone could please mute themselves. Okay. I hope that today gives you both inspiration and some practical insights you can take back to your teams. And before we get started, also a quick word about Brightest. At Brightest, we help organizations simplifying and unifying ESG data collection, management, and also reporting. So that includes many AI-supported workflows, scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, supplier engagement, and in general, just compliant with many different ESG standards. And then now I will take this moment to introduce our amazing panelists. And first, we have Dr. Jorge Gutic, based in the UK. Jorge is an environmental sustainability expert with over 25 years of experience in corporate sustainability. He holds a PhD and is a former university professor in sustainable business and tourism. Jorge began his career as a marine ecologist in Venezuela, and that really sparked his passion for sustainability. And today, Jorge leads sustainability initiatives at MeiraGTx, embedding environmental considerations across pharma operations. Then next is Jordan Ridgeway, based in the US. He is sales director at Impact Laboratories, collaborator of My Green Lab. At Impact Laboratories, he focuses on advancing sustainable laboratory practices and ESG integration. He has lots of experiences in supporting labs across the pharma sector, and he helps organizations reduce environmental impact, improve operational efficiency, and embed sustainability into their workflows. And then finally, we have Jan Bebermeier, Dr. Jan Bebermeier, Global Marketing Manager at Eppendorf. Jan oversees sample management systems and all product-related sustainability initiatives, including ACT label and all product-related product carbon footprint calculations. He is a molecular biologist by training and holds a PhD from the Medical University of Lübeck, where he conducted research on gender developments. Jan has been with Eppendorf since 2005, holding various roles. And without further ado, again, welcome everyone who joined a bit later. It's a real privilege to have you with us today. And let's dive right in. So to kick off, Jan, single-use plastics remain a huge challenge in labs. Is Eppendorf exploring circular solutions or alternative materials to reduce plastic waste?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction and thanks for being here. I think that's one of the most important questions, how to handle the plastic. You know, it's something where we get, I think every second question we got from our users is about the plastic or the remains of the plastic, the heritage of plastic. And we are all used to this single-use stuff, this shiny, glory, clean stuff and materials. And everyone is happy that at the end of the day, this awful big bag of waste, plastic waste, is taken away by some nice people, and in the morning it's gone. But what happens with it? And the big question is really, can we reduce it? I mean, there are ways to reduce the plastic usage in the labs. We have to be smart. We have to think about how we can improve it. On the other side, for sure, companies like Eppendorf, but also the other suppliers, trying to, let's say, explore new ways how to at least go to the recycling. I mean, it must make sense. Let's be honest with that one, because just to collect plastic and then just throw it away somewhere without being aware of it isn't a solution either. So we have to find a way to recycle it on the same quality level, so no downcycling, but also to check for other alternative materials like bio-based plastics. And there I'm talking about second generation, so not to compete with food, but really to use waste to produce new materials. So really new plastic where we save the limited fossil oil and not using that one for lab plastic. And they can be used, this new material can be used for all different kinds of purposes in the lab, so there's no difference. And I think that's at least, I always call it a bridging technology towards recycling. I think the goal should be that we can really close the loop, but that's due to leachables still a huge challenge for the plastic industry in the labs, but that's where we have to go to.
Thank you a lot. And yeah, I can imagine that indeed quality considerations are challenging in searching for circular solutions. But yeah, interesting to know that you are exploring some solutions. And then the second question I had for Jorge. So looking at your work across global pharma operations, what have been the most effective strategies to embed ESG considerations into R&D, the supply chain, or also clinical operations?
Thank you, Anne. That's a really interesting question and a really complex one. And it really depends, I guess depends on what stage of the journey you are with implementing sustainability. But I think there are common lessons that we can all share and try to implement really. I think for me, in terms of implementing sustainability in my current company has been really communicating very clearly what is it that we're trying to achieve, making sure that everyone understand not only what are the sustainability goals of the company, but actually what is their role on it. I'm afraid that also you have to become a bit of a broken record and be repetitive, really. Something that I tend to say, and I guess is a good analogy, really. Sustainability is a game that you play in sort of, is measured in years, whereas my colleagues in production, manufacturing, their timelines tend to be measured in weeks or months. So they, what is a priority for me could easily slip out of their scope, really. So it's being perhaps a bit persistent and trying to kind of remind them, what is the role that they play. And likewise, I think for my colleagues, all of my colleagues, regardless of which department they are, I need to talk their language and sort of, try to make sure that, for example, my colleagues in production, well, how sustainability is going to add to them, really. And that's really talking the language of efficiencies, really. There are, not that they're not interested in saving the planet, but it's not going to cut the mustard, really. They want to hear, okay, how can I help them to be more efficient, how to bring products to market quicker, etc. I think also it's important that you try to foster a really level playing field of sustainability culture in the company, and it's definitely try not to be top down, and actually let each team define what is important for them in terms of sustainability. We have in our company, we have sustainability champions, and each department, not all, I wish it was in every single department, but most departments has a sustainable champion. And there are the sort of, it's really like the spokesperson for the department in terms of what they are really interested on. So you need to kind of encourage that internal sustainability culture. And I guess to finish off, really, it's sort of when trying to I think for the pharma industry, the big challenge is always going to be our scope 3 emissions, really, sort of our dealing with the impacts on our supply chain. We are very, very early in that journey ourselves. And I think my learning lesson has been to while celebrating the small gains, and in our case, that has been switching order supplies to renewable energy contracts, and that immediately has had a significant impact into our scope 3 emissions. But also sort of not forgetting that, as again is said, is a long game. You need to start playing that game with your suppliers early on, and making sure that they are aware that you want to bring them in the journey with you, that you want to give them opportunities to start measuring their carbon, developing their policies, and actually support each other. Really, it's not a question of us telling them what they have to do. It's actually trying to find how we can support each other in that sustainable journey. I was going to mention the waste problem that we have in pharma, but I think Jan has made a really, really, effective argument about the point. So I'll leave it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. And yeah, that's a great reminder that sustainability is a game of years, because yeah, it really is, along with making it meaningful for different teams and for different suppliers as well. And then I have a question for Jordan. So Jordan, you're working closely with different labs every day. What are some of the most impactful steps you've seen labs take to reduce energy and also resource use without disrupting coming back onto research quality?
Yeah, and thank you, Anne, and I appreciate you asking the question, and it's a pleasure to be a part of the conversation. And the most impactful progress we see almost always starts with behavioral change. It's where you can make small, deliberate shifts in daily habits, and that helps build the culture of sustainable science. And in most cases, it's not the large infrastructure projects that are moving the needle. It's the collective actions of the people working in the lab every day. And if you've been in a lab, you can see firsthand just how much waste and inefficiency can build up just simply because processes are inherited rather than being optimized. And I think what's encouraging now is that more and more labs are starting to embed sustainability directly into their operations, and it's without disrupting any of their research quality. And so when we talk about impact, I think optimizing equipment is continues to be one of the most effective strategies. And it's small adjustments you can make, like consolidating freezer storage or raising ultra low temperature freezers from -80 to -70. And that can reduce energy consumption by 30 to 40% per unit, and it maintains full sample integrity. And that applies also to fume hood sashes or recycling programs, or even something as simple as just using energy saving modes on equipment. And none of that requires new technology. It just requires better awareness. And that's really the purpose behind My Green Lab certification. It's where we're not giving you a checklist, it's an operational framework that enhances efficiency, and it's aligning sustainability with scientific best practice. And it gives labs a structured way to benchmark progress. It allows you to engage staff, and it translates everyday actions into measurable results. And I also want to touch on the cultural side, which I think is equally important. Scientists are inherently data driven, and they want to see evidence of their change or their improvement. And so when sustainability programs set realistic goals and they can track the progress, like energy saved per freezer unit, you'll see the participation rise dramatically. And when you can share those metrics across teams or the sites, it's often the catalyst that sparks healthy competition and collaboration. So I think ultimately the labs that treat sustainability as a core piece of their operational excellence rather than an afterthought or a checklist, they consistently find the efficiency gains, the cost savings, and the staff engagement, and it all falls into place naturally.
Excellent answer. And yeah, I totally agree on the inherited heritage part. Having worked a little bit in the lab myself, that was, yeah, totally how things went. And yeah, also the simple suggestion of just increasing the freezer temperature a little bit. I think it's very simple, but it can have a huge impact. And yeah, now I wanted to discuss a little bit how the pharma sector approaches ESG data, AI, and innovation. So first, Jan, how does Eppendorf track and report progress on ESG metrics, particularly around product sustainability and customer impact?
Yeah, so what we do for some years now is to check for sure how we can improve the product portfolio, but on the other side, how to measure that is really, well, I would say some kind of a challenge, because the best way to reduce your scope 3 downstream emissions for a supplier would be if we would tell you as a user, don't switch on our centrifuge, period, because that would drastically cut down our emissions and yours as well, but that doesn't work. So we have to accept that lab work consumes energy. We have to accept that when we use equipment, when we heat, when we cool, when we mix, and when we shake, that requires energy. And that is just physical law. So we can tweak it a little bit to improve it a little bit. But what we realized so far with R&D people in-house is really a centrifuge. If it's running full speed, it needs electricity, period. So we can turn it around as much as we want, it still requires energy. So what we try to do is really to see, okay, where are the ways to adapt a little bit, but also to train the people. So really to have sessions like these ones, to present the facts, to talk about what is currently possible, what's not possible, what's in the movie, what's in the making, but really to see, okay, to share openly the experiences, because it doesn't help if industry is just hiding everything, pretending everything is fine. On the other side, the user side is saying, well, we don't trust industry because they're always lying anyway. So we have to find a middle and cooperate, because we can do this journey only together.
Thank you a lot, Jan. And yeah, indeed, we have to go through the journey together. And yeah, transparency to create trust. And then, yeah, also a question for Jorge. So when it comes to ESG data collection, what are the biggest gaps or opportunities between manual and automated approaches for data collection?
Thank you, Anne. I had the opportunity to actually do both approaches, and something interesting and perhaps for me slightly unexpected of manual data collection, it's that sometimes what you see in a report is not necessarily telling you the whole story of what's happening on a lab or in the production area or in on the warehouse, really. And talking directly to staff and actually requesting data directly from them helps you to identify what I would call the ground truth. Perhaps understanding why you have these spikes of electricity usage, for example, or why you're having so much waste. And again, I will continue to touch on waste because that's certainly a huge problem of mine. And sort of talking to the staff that's dealing with that problem directly helps to understand, okay, why have we come here, and what are the potential solutions, really? So I think talking directly to staff and getting the data directly from staff, it gives you opportunity to better understand problems, A, and B, actually at the same time start to work in potential solutions. Having said that, there is a big downside to sort of engaging staff, which is time. It takes a lot of time, can be very time consuming to actually, if that's your only choice, because you haven't got automated systems in place, sometimes it will take a long time to get basic information from people, especially if that person doesn't understand why you are asking them how much, what's the cost of the things that you chuck on the waste this month, but it's on the waste. Why do I worry about it's already money spent? Why do I need to know that? Why you need to know that? So they might find your requests either slightly irritating because they have other things to do and they don't understand what is the value of knowing that the cost of the waste for ESG purposes, or they might find it's in real annoyance to them. However, as you all know, increasingly we have excellent and very, very good ESG platforms on the market, proprietary software that can both interact with your existing systems and actually measure things directly and give you information in real time. And I think that's the direction of travel, really. Eventually, that's where I think we all are going to be sooner or later, really, in the sense that it actually makes sense to simplify the process of data collection and actually get that sort of real-time information as much as possible, really. And I think the question is really making sure that your platforms are able to integrate as much as possible to your existing systems, really. You don't want to sort of break the whole IT structure of your company just because you're bringing a new platform, right? Either you want the platform to adapt to what you got, really. And of course, it's not possible to talk about data collection without mentioning AI, really. And so, I've been to 3 conferences this year on different sustainability subjects. And in all of them, there's been at least one presentation of an ESG platform that's saying, oh, we got this excellent AI agent that will do wonders for you, will do everything for you. And so, everyone at the moment is flowing AI, has, the best thing since sliced bread. I won't argue with that. I think AI is a fantastic tool. It has the potential to make our life a lot easier, sustainable measures. But I would actually, if anyone's trying to sell me AI, I will ask a series of check questions. And please feel free in the questions later in the question panel, please add your own suggestion for questions, because I definitely want to have as many questions as possible. But I think my first question would be, how can I be sure that your AI agent's gonna keep me on the loop? How can I be sure that any assumption that the AI is making, any connections between sort of this discrete data that the AI is making, how are they going to be transparent to me so that I can understand how that magic answer came out at the end? I think the best AI for me would be the one that can actually tell me, Jorge, I'm not good for this. Do it yourself. And the AI that can recognize that it's not a good tool for what you're asking to do would be fantastic. And I would go a step further. The AI that can tell me, okay, I'm not a good tool for this, but if you do it this way, or if you kind of process your query in these certain ways, I might be able to help. So an AI agent that help me to sort of probe me with questions and help me to define the problem that I'm trying to answer with AI would be fantastic, really. I think for me the tedious and in my recent carbon accounting exercise that I did, I use AI. I use AI tools, and I found that depending on the data sets, it would be completely dumb, and it could really not process the data. And I asked the question several times. I cleaned the database, and still nothing came that was useful. So I would like to have an AI that could actually is able to recognize our more harmonized data packs in a way that makes this sort of routine data processing easier but reliable. Okay, that I can check these databases and be confident that what comes at the other end is actually usable. And perhaps my final question really for the person selling me AI, can your agent help me to speed up, for example, the testing of sustainable solutions? For example, can help me to design energy management in a way better than I can do myself? Can I link to other platforms to help me identify sustainable hotspots? And I will finish with a word of caution, really. As I said, I think AI is a great tool, but as for sustainable managers, I think we have an obligation to understand that there's going to be long-term consequences of replacing human interaction by machine learning. And that inevitably is going to lead to some loss of local knowledge and expertise, particularly sort of what a good thing that we do humans that AI is not so good is interconnecting separate, completely independent things and making it work together. That is a risk that at the moment AI is not very good at. So we need to be cautious with that. But that's the way of travel. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you a lot, Jorge. And yeah, indeed, very interesting points. I also indeed agree that it's a major challenge to keep AI auditable. And also that indeed the ideal AI should set limits of what is possible and what is not possible. Yeah, what I also think is really exciting about AI is that right now it is the worst we have. It's only going to get better. AI sustainability improvement suggestions are already something we currently have as part of the platform based on the data you upload. And I'm especially excited for those like improvement suggestions. They are only going to get better. But then again, yeah, it is something we also have to be very cautious about in terms of auditability, but also, as you mentioned, linking completely separate things to together, as that is something which, yeah, humans are indeed maybe right now better at. And then, yeah, maybe as a next question for Jordan. So how do you see sustainability goals shaping innovation and operational improvement in labs over the next coming years?
Thanks, Anne. That's another great question. And over the last few years, pharmaceutical companies have made significant progress in reducing their Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. And they're doing that through renewable energy or facility upgrades. And while that has a real impact, those companies are now starting to recognize that they're reaching the upper limits of what they can achieve within their direct footprint. So I think what the next frontier is, and where we see innovation is really accelerating, is in tackling Scope 3 emissions. And what it's doing is it's prompting a real shift in how sustainability and operations intersect. And we're seeing pharmaceutical companies begin to require sustainability expectations directly into their procurement and their supplier partnerships. And what they're asking for is verified data. They're requiring transparency from manufacturers, and they want to be able to measure environmental performance across lab products and lab services. And so those requirements that they're asking for, they're now driving innovation. And it's not only in product design, but in how those products are used, maintained, and measured. And we have a program with our Act Eco label that's bringing much needed transparency to the lab supply chain. And with companies like Eppendorf providing third-party verified data on a product's environmental impact, whether that's measuring manufacturing, packaging, or end of life cycle considerations, it's empowering the procurement teams to make informed decisions. But I think just as importantly is it's encouraging the manufacturers to responsibly innovate. And so the manufacturers need to design lab products that use fewer resources, they last longer, and they have lower carbon footprints. And that shared visibility is what's creating stronger partnerships between suppliers and the customers. And it's where both sides are working together on common sustainability targets. And when you combine that with something like the My Green Lab certification, which focuses on improving efficiencies and behavior within the lab itself, now organizations can gain a full spectrum framework that can connect sustainable product design with responsible use. And so by extending sustainability goals beyond their own facilities, pharmaceutical companies are building the partnerships that are advancing the transparency, they're reducing waste, and they're accelerating decarbonization across the entire value chain. And, the last thing I want to mention is that sustainability is and should be a shared responsibility, and it's with manufacturers and the institutions. And organizations that are embracing that collaboration across the supply chain, I think that's what's really driving responsible innovation.
Thank you a lot, Jordan. And yeah, great points you made before that, like, verified data is not just a compliance checkbox, but it really is a driver of innovation in the sustainability sector. And with that, we come to an end of the panel part, and we will move to the Q&A session. Thank you a lot, Jan, Jordan, and George, for these valuable insights. And then, we would love to hear from you, from the audience. If you have not done so yet, then this is the moment to drop any questions in the chat. And now what I will do is I will pick some questions. So we will start with, I kind of asked this question already to Jordan, but maybe Jorge or Jan, it would be interesting to hear this from you as well. So what is currently being done to reduce the lab energy use? Do you have any specific technology? Either Jorge or Jan, feel free to jump in, whoever wants to answer this. So to repeat the question as well, just so everyone is aware, what is being done to reduce the lab energy use? What technology are you using?
I'm happy to jump on that one. And we look at that issue at Meira. Obviously, we run clean rooms. In order to maintain our certification, those clean rooms need to operate 365 days a week, 24 hours a day. And they represent basically a huge sort of consumption of energy, large carbon emissions, and a lot of money. I have looked at what is possible to do there. In our manufacturing side at Shannon, we are going to install, and that's imminently. We're going to put solar panels, and we have a lot of roof space where those solar panels would go. We're going to cover them with solar panels, and still, at best case scenario, that's going to provide us about less than 20% of the energy that we use on site. So there are really no easy answers, because we have to face it. Pharma is a very energy intensive industry. And I think the best next option, which we are already on, is to switch to certified green energy providers. So all our energy that we're using is carbon neutral. And I have the sort of rec certificates to actually show as part of my carbon accounting that those are sort of, you know, clean energy we're getting. But ideally, I would like to obviously minimize the amount of energy that we use, industrial technology. Jordan I have pointed out that there are easy ways to do that, and perhaps Jordan would like to jump in that because, you know, a lot of that, not all of that is high tech. Sometimes, you know, simple actions can also help. But that would be my key contribution, really. Sort of trying to implement on-site generation, but it's never going to be the sole answer.
Jordan or Jan, would you like to contribute anything to that?
Yeah,
No,
I
go ahead.
think Jorge makes a great point, and I kind of mentioned it in my first answer. It's really about what you can do inside of your specific lab, right? So when you're monitoring the plug load energy of the main instruments that you're using, when you're conscious of the water that goes into those processes, and then the waste and the recycling, practicing green chemistry, all of those small changes can make a big difference. And it's not always about the institutional changes that you can make, whether it's with renewable energy or site-specific modifications. It's about doing what you can within the four walls of the lab that can have a real impact. And those small changes over a long period of time can deliver significant results.
Thank you a lot. Then, yeah, maybe moving to another question from the comment section. So here we have a question of Ananya. Maybe, well, putting you back on the spot again, Jordan, if you would like to share something about how you have seen other labs approaching this. So how often and deployable have green chemistry principles been in the R&D and Q&A, QC functions to design, synthesize, and test drugs with fewer resources? Also, if Jan or Jorge wants to share anything, feel free as well.
So I'll go first. I'll be honest, I'm not as familiar with green chemistry, but I want to go back to it's about what is the sustainable best practice. So if you can swap out reagents, it can be a huge benefit to a lab. And are you monitoring what goes in and what comes out of those processes, whether it's the energy, the waste, the water, all creating those behavioral changes across a long period of time is what delivers the real benefit, whether it's an R&D lab or a chemistry lab. It's really about creating that culture within the four walls of the lab space.
Makes sense. Thank you. And then another question from Jaden would be maybe a good question for you, Jan, since you already touched a bit upon waste. So how are you working with the misconceptions that all medical waste is hazardous?
Oh my gosh, that's difficult to answer because the reality is a little bit challenging, you know. For sure, a lot of plastic waste is non-contaminated from the perspective of the user. The trouble starts when we look on the opposite. So that means of the collector of the waste, on the suppliers of the products giving recommendations. Because for us, you know, all the waste is potentially contaminated. Because, I mean, even if you have a big bag full of more or less clean tip boxes to be recycled, it's sufficient to have one contaminated box in this, doing by a trainee or by whoever, let's say, less interested person in the lab. And then this big bag of plastic is or must be seen as contaminated because, you know, we are in charge that the people who do the recycling, the sorting, the milling, that they are not getting injured because despite all the automatism mechanisms in recycling, there's still a lot of human interaction. So they are really human beings sorting the packagings of these materials, and they are not really well trained and paid, by the way. So that means they have no clue about lab contamination. So afterwards, they take their lunch break and just eat their sandwich. And that's just thing we have to keep in mind. So recycling and contamination is critical. We have to find a solution, but in the moment, it's really something, it's a lot of trust and less proof.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It is really critical and it can be really dangerous. So yeah, thank you a lot. Then moving to the question of Apana. So a question for Jorge, again, if someone else would like to add something on to feel free, of course. So how are you addressing the need to evaluate drug safety and efficacy before human trials without animal cruelty aspects of it? Can AI be used to simulate these tests instead of large-scale animal exploitation?
A really, really good question. Fortunately, there is, yeah, and indispensable in the pharmaceutical sector. Patient safety is going to be paramount. It's going to be the almost the premise that's leading everything else behind, really. So we cannot change anything. We cannot do anything that can be potentially seen as compromising patient safety. We don't use large scale animal testing, certainly not in our company. We have actually sort of moved a lot of the testing to in vitro, so we use cells rather than animals. So we minimize that need, but that's not to say that for other companies, there's always going to be a need for that. Again, AI has a potential for contributing and the testing of solutions and speeding up of solutions. And actually, we have seen already, I think a month ago, how throughout AI, some treatments have already been potentially effective drugs have been identified as cure for some potentially serious diseases, really. I would be very cautious because I also remember clearly of this one test when someone and I think this was perhaps not widely publicized at the time, but I think last year some chemist was actually trying to use AI to identify potential new medicines for treatments and ask the questions to an AI agent. And the AI agent came with a list of both potential medicines and potential deadly poisons. So it actually sort of, basically, if you don't ask the question carefully, it will give you, things that kill the cell and everything else around the cells, really. So it's going to be a few interesting years. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, great to hear that you yourself are using in vitro testing, and yeah, again with AI we have to be cautious, but it's also very promising for this particular practice. And then moving to the last question. So I'm going to keep this open. Whoever wants to jump in can jump in. So the question is from Jaden. Is anyone working on incorporating healthcare and its sectors into national and states GHG requirements outside of internal goals?
That's a good question. Honestly, I don't know. Fair enough.
Fair enough.
So I do believe that the United Nations Race to Zero is working on this, and what we're starting to see is real momentum in bringing healthcare and clinical labs into the greenhouse gas reduction goals. And it's not just through sustainability programs, but through formal reporting frameworks. And so I know there are several state and federal agencies that are exploring how healthcare networks can include lab operations in scope 1 and scope 2 reporting. And that conversation is expanding towards the supply chain emissions as well.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you.
I would like to point out that perhaps in the UK, things are slightly more advanced, and the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK, has set up targets for carbon emissions and net zero. There are long term, sort of there are 2050, but that has actually forced all our institutions to actually try to set up carbon reduction targets, really. Whether it's happening or not, it's that's another matter. Like any or many other places, the public health sector in the UK, it's has a very challenging funding environment, and obviously when you are short of money between patients and carbon, obviously patients will always trump. But at least the goals are there, the ambition is there. So I think it's happening, but it will take time, and it definitely needs to take a lot more money than what is being put in the sector at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you a lot. And yeah, makes sense. Then, well, I thought we were at our last question, but a question from Jan Reiners came in. So AFEX or steam have been considered to be the biggest CO2 source in the past in pharma processes. Is this then still true with renewable energy as power supply? And what is the second biggest after the energy part in your view?
I'm happy to take that one.
Sure.
Well, I'm trying, certainly in our case, as I mentioned, filling solar panels, our roof with solar panels, that still will only provide less than 20% of our energy needs for manufacturing. We would need probably, I would hazard a guess that we would need to fill about 5 or 6 times our manufacturing plant to actually have enough solar energy there to nearly get to our 100% of energy consumption. So at the moment, I'm afraid that the best option is really get that green energy from somewhere else, sort of get an external provider that supply that for us. That's not to say that we need to discount it or not have it. I think it's important to actually try to have some level of self-reliance in terms of energy generation. And I'm not sure if after the second part of the question, what is the second biggest after energy part in your view? If you mean what is the second biggest source of carbon emissions, I think actually, if you look, and I suspect that would be a common case for all pharmaceutical companies, really. Actually, the energy that we're using directly, our scopes 2 energy and scope 1 energy, is the second actual largest source of carbon emissions. The first one, the biggest one, is our supply chain. So scope 3, in our case, is well over 70% of our carbon emissions are coming from scope 3, really. And I think that's common to all pharmaceutical companies, really. That's not a unique situation, really.
Yeah, makes sense. We also hear that a lot from our clients. And well, thank you all so much for those questions. It's really great to see the engagement and curiosity. And then again, if there are any other questions, feel free to email us or, well, the speakers potentially, you can email me and then I will forward. And before we wrap up, also again, a huge thank you to our speakers, Jorge, Jan, and Jordan. Thank you a lot for sharing your insights, and for everyone in the audience joining us today, and for TerraDo for hosting this panel. And yeah, just to maybe quickly recap, so at Brightest, we're helping pharma companies stay compliant globally across CSRD, Swiss OCD, and many other frameworks while using AI, which caution, to simplify ESG workflows. And if you would like to see more, learn more about the platform in action, feel free to send your email in the chat for a quick demo. And yeah, besides that, we'll follow up with the recording and any additional resources on the Brightest LinkedIn and per email. And yeah, again, thank you a lot, everyone. And that was really insightful, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.